Live from Darfeasy Studios in Eddyville, Kentucky. It's time for another episode of the Evolution of Survivor Strategy. Tonight, we're going on to the second season that pitted men versus women on the volcanic islands of Vanuatu to the Island of Fire. Watch as Chris Daughtry basically is somehow survives the Women's Alliance and is able to play one of the most dominant games the game has seen so far. We'll talk about all that and more in this episode of the Evolution of Survivor Strategy. Your host, Darth Easy. Hello, Easy Nation. Welcome to another episode of the Evolution of Survivor Strategy, hosted by Darth Easy. This is Darth Easy speaking, and what up, people? I mean, what's up? So, yeah. So, we're in the post, this is what is known as the second close post era of the Survivor series. And I've subscribed to this YouTube channel called Prettium, or whatever his name is. He basically talks about Survivor. He kind of broke down the eras of Survivor. And, that's kind of why I'm basing a lot of the eras of Survivor. Because, the second, I still would consider, technically for me, I consider Vanuatu and Palau as part of the first era, the classic era. I think the next era really begins with the inclusion of the immunity idol, but we'll get to that later. So, but this is the beginning of the second era, which is known as the post-classic era. I think this ranges from this season all the way up till Fiji, I believe. So let's get into it. This is a very interesting season. So this is the first season after All Stars. We're like, okay, we just did the All Star season. We brought these return players back. Now we gotta go back to the grindstone. And can this be a successful season? So what do? They bring back one of the twists that I guess it was really loved, but really it was probably a little too soon to do it. But you know what? It turned out fine, and that was men versus women. And the thing about this season, compared to Survivor Amazon, is I think it's just the cast. And I love Amazon. I think I've been doing my rankings of Survivor on a Word document. As I watch the shows, I'm going to rank them, and then whenever I finish all the seasons, I'm going to do a complete Survivor ranking video on my main Darfeasy YouTube channel. And, I do, it's different, it's a different men versus women because, it's more, the first season on Amazon, it was more about inclusion, just watching the brilliance of Rob Cesternino's gameplay, flipping, flopping, and everything. And really, there was no men versus women after the merge. Basically, everyone was they were playing straight game Survivor. This season was completely different. This was more of the battle of the sexes that we were promised back in Amazon. And we also had a much older cast than the original Amazon series. So it was more of these older men and older women who, they have their people. They don't care anything really about hooking up with these hot ladies or men. So it makes for a very different season. And so, it begins with that first episode, and I really like how it's the kind of the culture shock where they're in this tribal thing where the men are kind of exalted and the women are kind of just casted aside, and I really do like the cultural things they do in classic Survivor seasons. And so, the season starts off, basically, the men lose the first immunity challenge, and basically, the older guys decide to stick together and start picking off the younger men. And, it probably wasn't the smartest, really, idea, because, you have Chris, who, would eventually become the winner of the season, and he started off with probably one of the worst starts you could ever start. He was on the balancing beam, could not get through the balancing beam, but he built that trust. He had that mental gameplay that other first boots do not have, and he was able to work with Sarge, work with Chad, work with Rory, work with Bubba, and was able to survive and create a powerhouse alliance that dominated that tribe. And they got rid of most of the young guys. And then we moved to the women, and it was basically the same thing going on with the women tribe, where the women, it was the older women versus the younger women, but the older women were they weren't on the right side. And Eliza switches to the older side because she doesn't trust Dolly because she's been talking about her behind her back. So she votes her out. And then after that, we do the first ever double tribal council. So basically, what happens is the first double tribal council. No matter who wins the challenge, it doesn't matter. Both tribes are going to the tribal council. Kind of a way to speed the game up and force the tribes. I love the double tribal council. We've done this so many times in the future seasons of Survivor, but this is the first time we've done it this season, and I like what they are doing. So eventually, we get the tribe swap, and you knew a tribe swap was coming. It had to come. You can't keep it men versus women forever. You have to see, okay, is the women or the men, are they going to fold like they did in Amazon, or is it going to be different? And, most of the men end up on the original, the main tribe, and then the other side, you have the Lepevi tribe, or the Yasher tribe, who is just got Rory and Bubba on it. And basically they lose the first two immunity challenges, and Bubba kind of gets caught looking at the other side and says, "Think about the merge, and it kind of rubs people the wrong way, and it sends him out. And Rory, such a good character. I mean, it's sad. I would love to see Rory come back and play another season of Survivor, because that lie where he basically knows he's next, and it's just watching Amy dominate that alliance. And, I'll talk more about it as this goes along, but Amy controlled that women's alliance so well that people just followed her orders and everything. But Rory, that great line by Rory is, he said, if I voted out, the Yasser tribe is going to burn to the motherfucking ground. And you're just like, holy crap, man. You're just like, that's awesome. Let's do it. Let's go. And sounds like a guy I work with. So yeah, and so eventually the tribes merge, but before I get to that, we have the Lepevi tribe, the mostly male alliance with Twyla and Julie. They go to tribal council, and Chad and all the guys are like, it's like, okay, can we trust Twyla? Can we trust Julie? And Julie kind of has her feminine ways with the guys, and they kind of don't want to turn against her. And they have this guy John Kay, who would have been loyal to them, to especially like someone like Chris and Sarge, but they vote with their hearts and they get rid of John Kay, which that would have brought them 5-5 men versus women. But people like Sarge trusted people like Twyla, trusted Julie, and thought, we are family, we are one tribe. There's no more men versus women, and Julie does a very smart thing. I think a lot of people don't realize is that Julie convinces Twyla that they made a Final Four alliance with her, just like they did with Twyla, and they didn't. Julie was completely lying about that, which completely turned Twyla against the men and did not allow Twyla to be able to work with them once the merge happened. The merge happens, the guys are stunned because they thought Julie and Twyla were on their side, and Rory goes home. And then it's basically a pecking order. Sarge goes home as the biggest physical threat. Chad goes home because he's stuck on that log thing for a very long time. So it gets to the very pivotal moment of the final 7. And, we have people like Leanne and Amy, who's brought Julie around, and Scout, who's really wants to turn the game around, really wants to get rid of Eliza so they can take out Amy and then take out Leanne. And she wants to play with these guys like Chris and Chad, but she just can never make the move. She kind of gets caught, and they're like, bad Scout, where they should have probably, the next vote, they probably should have taken out Scout instead of, or something, but they probably should have just not alienated someone like Eliza, which I'll get back to in a minute. But, Chris, good on him, because, he says in the reunion, but basically what Chris says, he says, I could be angry, I can be upset, and all this stuff, but I still gotta play this game. And if there's even a chance, if there's even a small, 2% chance that I could stay in this game, I just have to smile and take it. And, he builds those relationships with Julie, who really pushes for him not to get voted out. But then Twyla comes with that opportunity to Chris and basically says, do you want to flip this game, or do you just want to go home? And he's like, I'm going to flip this game. and they get Eliza, who the women want to take out. Amy knows this is a bad idea. She wants the 6 women to go to the final 6, but she's like, you know what? I'm gonna go with the women. I'm gonna agree with their side. And the one time Amy doesn't push her agenda, because she can't control that. Because I think if Amy wasn't in the picture at the final 10, I think Julie probably sides with the men. But the way Amy is able to manipulate people, and the friendship and just the manipulation power she has at this point in the game, is really what made the women so dominant. But you don't ever tell people you're on the bottom of an alliance. And Eliza, she felt she was at the bottom. She brought her bag every tribal council. And Eliza was, Chris says, they're voting for you tonight. They're not voting for me. They're voting for you. Me, you, Scout, and Twyla. We could flip this game around, and we can win it. And, Chris, very good, smooth talker, very manipulative. And they take out Leanne. It's just it was a turning point of the game, because the game was going one direction. It was only going to go one direction. And once that move happened, it was over. The game was over. It was at 4 to the final 5. Amy gets taken out final 6. Julie tries to weasel her way back into the final 5. And Chris, has that really difficult decision. But, they don't talk about it, but Chris has to realize that someone who has betrayed everyone, who swore on her son, has no chance of winning the game, has no chance of getting a lot of jury votes, so I gotta take this girl to the final 3. And Eliza, who, a lot of people didn't like her, felt like they weren't undeserving, but, there are some people that had that very sisterly bond that, like, Amy had, so people would probably vote for her. Someone's gonna vote for Twyla. It was a smart move to get rid of Julie and get rid of Eliza, because you got nothing to gain from it, really, if you really want to get down to it. So yeah, Chris played this game where he betrayed some people, but he kept that honest relationship, and he won those 3 immunities, the final 6 immunity, he won the final 4 immunity, and he won that final 3. And to be the last man standing to stay in the game and make it to the final tribal council is very impressive. And I think Chris is good at planting seeds on people's heads and always looking for an opportunity to strike. And that final tribal council gets very heartfelt at times, especially with the Julie stuff and Eliza stuff. And I think Chris gives one of the greatest final tribal councils of all time in Survivor. And Chris, he started off on that balance beam, could not finish that balance beam, and goes all the way to the end and wins the game. Very impressive from Chris. And it is one of the most impressive games we've ever seen thus far on my Survivor watch through. And a very underrated winner. I would have loved to see Chris come back for Winners at War. I thought it could have been very interesting to see him play again, especially with Modern Survivor. I wonder how he would have been able to do it, because the blind sides he was good at. And Vanuatu 2, Island of Fire, very underrated season. Really enjoyed this season of Survivor. I enjoyed rewatching it. It has some really great game players with Chris, Eliza, and Twyla. I mean, a lot of the stuff with Twyla was very interesting, and how it was cool seeing how she would do anything to win. So yeah, guys, that is this episode, the evolution of Survivor strategy. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I've been enjoying doing these episodes of Survivor. I'm getting ready to hit Palau. Palau's a season I really remember a lot of it. Watching, the complete decimation of the Yulong tribe. I believe that was what the tribe name was. So yeah, I'm looking forward to watching this upcoming season. So yeah, that's it, guys, for this episode of the evolution of Survivor strategy. Guys, make sure you check out my main YouTube channel, the Darth Easy YouTube channel. I've been posting my top 100 movies of all time. I just posted my 75 through 71 movies, so check that out now. So yeah, and I hope you guys like and subscribe and tell your friends about Easy Nation. And guys, until next time, all too easy.